We're rolling. Yeah, after over 2 months without videos on YouTube, we're back. Why did we leave YouTube?
Because we didn't have answer for so many questions we have after the last video.
Yeah, my boss, to be honest, been pressuring me for a long time that we should answer some of the questions, and I strongly believe on the point that we should not give half answers if we don't have the full answer. Until we have the full answer, we just better just be quiet, because otherwise it creates too much speculation. A lot of people assume things and believe they know the full story, and that's not the reality. In this video, we want to answer every single question, because now we do have answers. We do know what's gonna be in the future. We do know what we are working towards for. And we want to be 100% transparent. We want to tell 100% the truth, because after this video, there is no more talking about this subject. There is no more talking about the boatyard that started building our boat and that didn't finish our boat. We just want to set things clear. And in order to do that, we are not gonna give our opinion. This video is gonna be all about facts. We're just gonna go through all the facts from the day 0 to the day we left, so you get to understand the full story. And to be more real, we are not going to stop. It's going to be a one-take video, even if Ollie is tired. I know, he just woke up, but he wants to sleep again already. We are not going to edit this video, because I think if we edit this video, people start believing that we're cutting information off. We're just going to do one natural video that we're going to go through everything. And we need to set up the rules for that. First of all, we need to have a few disclaimers, because I think it's really important for you to understand our motivations. First of all, this video has no intent of attacking anyone and no intent to judge anyone. Who should judge someone is the judge, is the government, is the lawyers. We have no intent to judge anyone. We are just going to present facts. And these facts is what happened to us. It's just what happened to us in relation to the boatyard. We are not going to interpret anything. We're just going to take you through step by step of what happened from day 0 when we contact the boatyard to the day that we left the boatyard. What else? Any other disclaimer? Any other disclaimer? Hello.
I don't know, check your list.
Yeah, just so you understand, this is not the normal videos that we do. Usually we edit videos. This is a lot like the videos we shoot for patrons every now and then, giving updates on what we are doing. Because if we edit, we don't have time to post more videos for patrons, so we decide that we do one shot, like we record and that's it. And that means you're gonna listen to a lot of mistakes, a lot of rambling, and that's just the way it is. But I hope you enjoy the video. So let's see, I have a little bit of some notes, otherwise I might get lost and not say all the disclaimers I want to give you. Can you hold for me? Give me 1 sec.
Disclaimers.
Yeah. I think I have all the disclaimers done. So this video is gonna be recorded in 4 sections. The first section is gonna be a really quick Q&A where we're gonna answer most of the important questions that people ask on the last 2 months. And then we are gonna give you a timeline. And when I say a timeline, we're gonna go date by date from the day 0 to the end of the project of what happened in between. Because I believe that's the best way that you can understand properly the reason why we left the yard. By giving you a timeline, there's no way you don't understand. The third is to point our 2 biggest mistakes, because another intent of this video is to help anyone wanting to build a boat. And I think if we point our mistakes, maybe we can help you avoid the mistake if you want to build a new boat, and I think that's really important. The fourth is to let you know what's the future of the channel. Is the channel dead? A lot of people believe we're not going to ever make videos again. No, the channel is far from that. We've been working a lot actually in the last 2 months, but we have a lot of explaining to do about that. So now let's start with section number 1, that is the Q&A, and my boss is going to read the questions.
I think
That's
I don't even need to read this one.
Ollie's going to read the questions.
Why didn't the boatyard finish the boat?
It's a really tricky question, but the short answer is the boatyard as of 8th of July this year, that means last week, or I mean the beginning of last week, the boatyard don't even exist anymore. The boatyard being for a few months already in a recovery process. I don't know how you call that, like reassessment, or it's something like that. So pretty much they tell the government that they don't have money, and the government decide to help them with freezing their debt and helping them put in an administrator to try to help them to survive. After a few months, they make the decision if they continue as usual, or if they transform this process into a dissolvency. That means they sell parts and they finish the company. And on last Tuesday, the government decided to not accept an offer to buy the boatyard by someone else, and they decide to convert into a liquidation. That pretty much they're going to sell the parts, and I think this day already that doesn't exist. It's just they're just gonna sell parts, and that's the main reason why we took the boat out, because you understand more throughout the video. Next question.
Yeah, we are gonna explain more in details in the future timeline.
And what's the? No, on this video. Everything's gonna be on this video. Yeah. When we say in the future, it's the future of this video, not later.
On this video. Did you pay the full price?
So if we pay the full price, that in my way of seeing, there are two questions in one. First of all is, did the price that we pay for the boat is the normal price that a client pays? The short answer is no. We got a discount to build the boat with them because we advertised for them, because we thought we got a discount. In reality, we actually sold hull number 2 to one of our subscribers even before they started welding our boat. So we did our job. How much of a discount, you ask? Because if I say we got a discount, you might think you got 50% discount. It's cost price, or it's 70% discount. No, it was a lot less. So the way you calculate the price of a hull of a boat, that's normally standard in many boatyards, at least the aluminum boats that we know, you have a estimation of a number that is what they call like I don't know the exact name, but pretty much is how hard it is to build this boat. So this boat specifically, they say that the number is 450 hours. So that means 450 main hours by tons. So that means for every ton of boat, it takes 450 hours of one person working. And this boat was calculated for 5.8 tons. So 5.8 times 450, that's the amount of hours that takes to build the boat. And then the boatyard have a price for each man hour. So we paid, according to the yard, we paid a really good price, and that was 70 euros by man hour. Back then, we didn't have enough information. That was the end of 2023. We didn't have enough information to really understand if that was a cheap price or that was an okay price or expensive price. In reality, he said that his price was 80, and we went down because of the advertisement to 70. So that means 80 to 70, 12% discount or something like that. In reality, we quote last month to finish this boat in 2 boatyards in the Netherlands. A much smaller boatyard in the Netherlands with really good quality welds is charging in 2025, in May 2025, 65 euros an hour. We paid 70 euros an hour in 2023. So that means it's more expensive. A really good boatyard, a much bigger structure boatyard in the Netherlands, charges around 85 euros an hour in 2025. So that means I don't really believe we got a discount. I think, to be honest, we got a fair price, not even a discount. But even though we didn't get a discount, of course, we always advertise for the boatyard just by the fact that we make videos showing the process of building the boat. And the second question that comes inside this question is if we pay the full price of our contract. Because when we hired the boatyard, we had a contract, and we left before the boat was done. A lot of people ask, so did you pay entirely the contract? First, we need to understand what is our contract. We are going to talk a lot more in detail later on this video, but we did the boat in 3 contracts. One contract for the design that we fully paid, even though they didn't deliver the full design, to be honest. One contract for hull, deck, and roof. That is pretty much the beginning of what's here. And we would have a 3rd contract for keel and rudders that we never actually got it done. So everything you're going to talk about in this video is in regards to the 2nd contract. That means hull, deck, and roof of the deck saloon. In that contract, we ended up paying 82.82% of the contract. knowing that we are paying more than it's built, because it's definitely built less than 83%, 82.82%. But the truth is, we were gave the option: you either pay this much, or we're not gonna let your boat go. And if we don't let your boat go, the boat is gonna sit on the yard, and we're not even gonna work on the boat because you are not paying anymore. So the boat's gonna sit here. You have two options: you either take the boat and pay the price, or you leave the boat and who knows what's gonna happen. So the truth is, just a disclaimer, we had no idea the boatyard was gonna go bankrupt at that point. We just knew that they were really, really late on our boat, and that our boat was gonna even be more late and more late because they're just gonna postpone the restart of our boat. So we decided that we wanted to move on. We want to go back to make videos, because at that point we had no videos to make anymore. And we decided that we pay the price, and then we do a survey, and with the survey we go after them to get the money back that we overpaid. So we got to Belgium, we did a survey after like 1 or 2 months that we arrived, and the survey came up as 59% of the contract is done, not 82.82. That means we overpaid 23.82, if my math is right, and that is, I think by head, I think it's like around 52,000 euros of overpayment. And we are going to talk a little bit more about that money later on the video, because it's like you can sue someone, but how can you sue someone when you know they don't have money? It's not worth spending a lot of money on lawyers and then knowing that you're not going to get any money from that.
Then comes the other question: are you going to sue the boatyard?
Oh, that's an important one. I don't think it's, to be honest, I don't think it's worth suing someone that you know you're not going to get anything from it. You're just going to spend money on lawyers and lawyers and lawyers, and then you are in a country that we don't really understand the law. We don't, even though it's pretty similar to Brazil, it's a different thing when you don't speak the language. It's really complicated. So we decide to wait to see what happens to the yard in a medium term, and ends up that right now they don't even exist anymore. So now we became creditors for this overpayment. So we are part of the bankruptcy, asking for our money back because we overpay for that, and we have proofs because we have a survey, we have all the contracts, we have everything. The government already has our paperwork, they already accept us as creditors. So no, in a short, we're not going to sue the boatyard, but we are creditors for the difference.
Do we have all the documents and design of the boat?
We do have, it's complicated, we do have some, but not 100%. So just so you understand, we didn't take the boat from the yard and finish it. We negotiate a way out way before they actually got in a dissolvent problem, in like a commercial, how to say, like a lot before they applied to be bankrupt, or I don't know how you say that, but a few months before that, we negotiated saying, hey, we want to take the boat out, and we're going to explain in details how the process of taking the boat out was. But just a disclaimer, we did that on an agreement. We had a contract, and on this contract, we had the agreement that we pay this much. We have the boat as it is. We have all the material to finish the boat. We have all the designs to finish the boat. And that means we have the 3D model of the boat so we can finish the work. But they gave us the 3D model, but not the design itself. They don't have like the structural design in a 2D like blueprint or whatever.
And some of the designs were not even finished, like the bowsprit and the locker for the anchor.
Exactly, like the bowsprit, there is the bowsprit, but there is no detail for the shaft and for how the anchor is going to attach to the bowsprit. Or the chain locker, there is no detail for how we are going to install the windlass in the chain locker, and that's really complicated because we cannot find a way of actually having a windlass, and that means we're going to completely change the chain locker. It creates a lot of problems because the design is not 100% ready, to be honest. And the crazy thing is that we actually fully pay for the design. So we paid for this design after taxes, 20% taxes. We paid like around 15, something like 16,000 euros. We're going to talk about that in detail when we go through the timeline. So what happens is that I don't know, it's complicated because we got a boat that is 59% done, not counting keel and rudder. So that means it's like, probably if you add keel and rudders, we are like 50% done, the aluminum welds. So we got frozen. We didn't know what to do. We got overwhelmed, 100% overwhelmed. For like 2 months, we didn't even know what to do. We try every single, solution. We even almost sold the boat, to be honest, for another subscriber. We almost sold the boat as it is. It took like 2-3 months of negotiations until we realized that it was not going to happen. It's just going to take time and time and time. And during this time, we're not making videos. We are not moving forward, and we gave up on selling. Then we tried to commission another boatyard to finish the hull of the boat.
There comes the other question. Why we didn't take the boat to the Netherlands, Portugal, or even to Brazil?
Yeah, so we thought about that, to be honest. To Brazil is out of question. Transporting the boat as it is to Brazil is way too expensive. It's not worth, in our opinion. It's better to sell the boat and go to Brazil and build a different boat. But it's really hard to sell the boat as it is and not lose a lot of money because it's unfinished. There is not 100% the design, and it's just complicated. No one is going to buy the boat as it is for the price that we paid. So we thought about taking the boat to a different boatyard. And the first one that we did a quote, that is a really good boatyard, by the way, in the Netherlands. First thing they said is, we don't trust the keel system of the boat, how it's designed. If you want, we can build that, but we will not give warranty on the keels because we don't believe on the way the keels are attached to the rudder, to the hull of the boat, and we don't think that's safe. So then we're like, oh, so what do we do now? Because if the keel is not right, and then the second yard that we talked to also had the same doubts about the keel. So 2 yards had the same doubts about the keel. And that made us question a lot of other things on the boat. Is the keel position right? Is the stability of the boat right? Is the position of the rudder right? Is the size of the rudder right? Is the boat actually seaworthy? Is the boat structure sound? Is it gonna break in half when you go to the ocean? So that's another reason why we didn't touch the boat for a while, because we wanted to find designers that we trust that could recalculate the entire design to get the 3D model and to recalculate the structure and tell us, yes, this structure is good, or no, you need to reinforce this, this, and this. And also we wanted them to recalculate the stability of the boat, give us the stability curve precisely, not something that we don't know if it's, because this boat changed a lot along the way, and we don't know if the stability curve that we have right now is the final one, or if it's out of date, if it's something from the previous design. So, all this to say that we actually got 2 new designers for the boat, that we are really, really enjoying the work with them.
We also decided to change the keel and the rudders.
Yeah, with that, this being said, not trusting the structure of the keel made us think, because I don't know if you remember, but originally this design was supposed to be a twin keel system with transferable ballast in between the keels. That means you could transfer actually lead from one keel to the other. And when we did the contract with the yard, I said, we will try your system. We will be the first boat to do it if you get the real size prototype on the yard to work. If you get a full size keel and make it work and prove to us that it works, we are going to build. Otherwise, we are just going to fill up the twin keels with lead, and we're going to have just fixed twin keels. For the past 8 months, the decision was made already. They never made it work. They always said that there is one piece missing. There is one curve of the pipe that we need to order, and it didn't arrive. And the truth is, they never made it work. It never worked. The idea never worked. So I said, forget about that. If that's what's delaying the boat, we're just going to have fixed twin keels. And the truth is, after a lot of thought and looking at the design for so many hours, I realized that the design of the keels, the way they were, it was for a system that you can transfer the ballast. If you don't have that, it's not efficient. It was not a good design. The size of the bulb and the position and the angles, and I think it was too risky to keep with that design. Even though we do have the material for that keel, we decide to go back and build something that is proven to work. That is a fixed, smaller keel, like a 50 centimeters keel with a center board inside. That means it's almost the same as we had on our last boat, a center board with the ballast not on the centerboard, but instead of being on the hull, we have a small keel. That means we bring the ballast a little bit lower, and that gives more stability that I prefer.
The boat's not gonna be rocking as odd.
Yeah, as much as odd, but I think it's a balance. Like you need to. It's a compromise. If you want a really low draft, you need to put the ballast high. If you put the ballast high, you have less stability. Then that means you need more ballast to have more stability. If you put lows, you will have a little bit more draft, but you have. It's a compromise. We've been talking about the exactly design of the keels for the past 2 weeks, trying to decide, do we want 1.3 meters with more ballast, or do we want 1.4 meters with less ballast, and all these decisions. We're going to talk more about that in the future once we have the final design of the keel and rudders, because now the boat was twin keels and one rudder, but now with one centerboard, the rudder is too deep, so now we need to have 2 rudders. The Boatyard also didn't want to have a skeg on the rudder. They never accepted my skeg. And now we are probably going to have twin rudders with skeg. I know for maneuvering it's not as good, but it is what it is. It's a compromise. But I think it's going to be really strong, so we can beach the boat and we can have a tripod composed of the keel and 2 rudders. We're going to talk in detail about that once we start building the keel and rudders. So you know, the designers are actually Brazilians. There are 2 guys that...
No, one's born in Africa.
Yeah, one is born in Africa, but he grew up in Brazil, and I don't know, I have the feeling that he's Brazilian. So one is Brazilian, fully Brazilian, and he lives in Australia. The other one is from Africa, but he lives in Brazil since his childhood, and he now lives on his boat in Spain, I believe, right now, or Portugal. And if you ask any Brazilian, they 100% know who they are.
They might know, because we were sailing with Gabi, José, Fernando from Serenata, and all of their boats were from their design.
Yeah. So any Brazilian that sails or that wants to sail and wants to build a boat knows 100% who we are talking about. In the, I would say, 70s or 80s, there is a guy called Cabinho that designed his own 23-foot boat and sailed from Brazil to French Polynesia, where he had a daughter, and he came back to Brazil because of his daughter. And then after that, he designed a lot of boats, and he always focused on boats that are meant for people to build themselves, so with really good details and in a way that is simple and easy to build for cruisers. And his off-sea exists for, I think, 39 years. Right now, he's not the owner of the off-sea anymore. It's his daughter, the one that was born in French Polynesia, her husband, and also there is a 3rd guy that works with them called Luis Pinho. Oh, one more. So Luis Manuel Pinho, that's the 3rd guy. He used to be a client, like, I don't know, 12 years or maybe 20 years ago. I don't know exactly how many years ago. He was a client. He built one of their boats, a 36-foot centerboard lifting keel boat, swing keel boat. And he was so involved during the process of building his boat, of designing his boat, that he ended up working with them for the past years. And he helped them to design a few different boats during this time. I don't know if you remember, but when we passed by Bahia,
I was gonna say that.
we visit someone building a boat that's a 44-foot Polar 44. That's a friend of ours, Fabio.
That's inspired on Moody's and Sirius and Amels.
Yeah, it's a really nice aluminum boat that we really like. It's a 44 feet, and that boat is designed by these 2 guys. So I always like what they do. They are off-sea already designed boats for, I think, like more than 1,000 boats for like more than 100 different countries. People build boats from them everywhere. Just an example, our friend's boat that sailed with us for months, Serenata, from Fernando and Loba, the dog, the blue one, that was their boat from the same company. Chicama, the neighbor, are also from the same boat. So there's many boats in Brazil from them. So we really trust their decisions.
Actually, when we were refitting out in Rio de Janeiro, we were in a marina, and a lot of boats from the same marina.
From that time, from the 80s and 90s or whatever.
They got together and they built like many boats, and they sailed for many years.
So we decide to, I don't know, contact them and tell our story and see like, hey, would you like to work with us and try to design, some modifications for our boat, because there are other modifications that we're going to do. And by the way, the other guy that helped them to design the boats, Luis Manuel Pinho, he's someone that I follow his story for a long time. So he started, I think 20 something years ago, he bought a steel boat just like us in Rio de Janeiro, and him and his former wife, they rebuilt the entire boat. So they did something really similar to what we done, and then they sailed for 10 years. They went from Brazil to French Polynesia, and then they decided to sell their boat there and went back to Brazil to build an aluminum boat. During the process of building the aluminum boat, the Boatyard went bankrupt, so he needed to finish himself the aluminum boat, and then he sailed for a few years, and then the boat ended up in the Caribbean and was for sale.
It's like our clone.
Yeah, so that's why he wanted to, he somehow, he feels our pain. And a few years ago, this boat, Green Nomad, that was his last aluminum boat, was for sale because he got divorced and his boat was for sale in the Caribbean. And I showed my father, like, man, I wish I had money to buy this boat, but we unfortunately didn't have money to buy that boat back then. But when we bought our last boat, he contacted us. I had no idea he knew us, but he contacted us saying that, hey, I'm a friend of the former owner of your boat. I actually sailed together with him on my first trip back 20-something years ago. We went up the Brazilian coast together. So I even had sailed on your boat before. And since after, like, I don't know, 3-4 years or 5 years ago, maybe. No more, 2019 when we bought the boat. Every now and then I talk to him, so I'm like, he knows who I am. I talk to him every now and then. I have his WhatsApp, so I contact him, and he straight away said, I'll talk to my partner, but I'm pretty sure we can help you and we can try to do our best. We don't want to judge anyone's design. We want to do a technical evaluation of the boat. It's mathematical. Does this hull can go, I mean, is it structural sound? Can it stand on ocean? Can it cross an ocean? Is it safe? That's it. It's not like I like the design, I don't like the design, I would do this different. No, not at all. It's just technical, just to guarantee we are fine, and also do the stability curve and do the modifications. So this is a really cool project that I've been working for the past month. So people believe that we gave up on YouTube, that we're not building a boat anymore. No, we are doing a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah, a lot of work and more work here because mom's gone. So we are just the two of us taking care of these guys.
I mean, and also this. We didn't open the doors yet. That's our new workshop.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. By the end of this week, I think we're going to finish the first step of the workshop. We have already wall, ceiling, roof. It's like electricity inside. The machines are arriving this week to actually put the machines inside. We're going to talk about that later on this video. Also, as you can tell, the boat's here. The boat is used to be there, and that was last week, and that was something that I could not find a solution to do for a long time, because you can say, why don't you just get a crane? The roof is too low. We cannot get a crane and put the boat inside. We needed to find a way to put the boat inside without a crane, and we found a way of doing it. It was so nice, so cool. That's I'm not going to spoil it. This is a really cool video that I didn't add yet, but this is a really good one coming up. So
another question is, are we taking the logo from the former Boatyard from our boats?
Yes, we are definitely taking the logo from the former Boatyard, and the reason for that...
we are modifying a lot of things.
Yeah, we're even going to modify a little bit the side, but the main reason why we're taking the logo off, to be honest, is because every time we see the logo, it reminds us of the really, really hard 1.5 years that we had, and we just want to literally leave all behind. This video, just to be clear, is the only video we are going to talk about these problems. We don't want to keep talking about that for the next year. We just want to get over with it. But if we don't record a video explaining things, people are going to keep asking and asking and asking, and we just want to have a video that if anyone comment asking something, just like watch this video, and that's it. We don't want to talk about it anymore. And every time we see a logo on the side that's covered right now, it reminds us of a lot of things, and we don't want that. And also we are changing keel, rudder, the position of the anchor locker, we are changing the stern arch, we are changing so many little things on the boat that I think it's a different boat. I mean, like, I'm the responsible for building the boat right now. There is no warranty on what we have. The Boatyard doesn't even exist anymore. So yes, we're going to take the logo out.
The last question is not related to the boat, is about the van.
The van, that's a really good question. As you guys know, we started building a van and we stopped building the van. The reason for that, the main reason for that is because, first of all, we don't have time, because we have Ollie that was born right when we were building the van, but also because our audience seemed to not like the van at all. Every time we post videos about the van, we just lose subscribers and the channel start going really badly. And it's sad because we put so much effort on this channel for the past 8 years that a lot of the people that unsubscribe because of the van, they actually want to see this boat being built, and they might never come back. So we decide that it's not worth for the channel as a business, because in the end of the day, that's how we can afford. The channel is a business also. It's our dream, but it's also how we can afford to do things and to live and to pay for food and everything. I mean, not at this moment. Last month, I think we made $150. That's it. That's all we made. So right now, it's not really a business, but we're hoping that it comes back to help us. Otherwise, we cannot even finish the boat. We don't have enough money to finish the boat if the channel doesn't start going at least okay for a while. What I was talking about?
What was the last question?
What I was talking about?
The van.
The van. Also the van. So even though the channel doesn't go well, somehow we need to sell the van because we need to put the money towards the boat. Because since day one, we knew we were going to build a van, and in 1, 2, 3 years, we're going to sell the van to put the money towards the boat. If we sell the van as it is, we're going to lose a lot of money because it's much harder to sell a van that's like not even half done. But in the other hand, we don't want to make videos for the channel. But there is also some of you, I would say like 5%, 10%, that actually ask all the time about the van because you want to see the van, the progression of the van, and you want to see what we're going to do on the van. And also the van is a really good way for us to try new things and make mistakes before we actually make mistakes on the boat that's much more expensive. So, this being said, during the past months, we got a big hit financially because of the whole Boatyard problem. And I was mentioning to Robin, by the way, is the factory where we live. This place is inside our sponsor factory, and they produce woodwork machinery that are the machines that we're going to install on the workshop next week. And I mentioned to them that I might need to get a second job, like a part-time job, to help financially to actually make to the end of this project. And after some talk, they're like, but why don't you do that here? So after months of talk, it seems like, it's not 100% sure yet, but we are trying to transform the van into my part-time job. Instead of getting a job at McDonald's that I even consider, to be honest, like just go there, work a few hours a day and come back and build the boat. It's much better if I do something related to what we've been doing for the past 8 years. So the idea is I'm gonna take 2 days a week to finish the van, 5 days a week to work on the boat. And these 2 days a week that I work on the van, I make videos about the van, just like we make videos for our main channel. But instead of posting on our main channel, we post on Robin's channel because the factory has also a YouTube channel. And we are going to record a small series about building the cabinets of a van using their machines as a job. So I think it's good for everyone. And our audience that wants to watch the van can go to their YouTube channel and watch that. And I think that's going to be really cool. We're going to let you know when that starts. We are not certain when you're going to start posting something about that. Any more questions?
Start the timeline.
So, my original plan was to walk around while I talk, but the problem is that it's really hard because the sun is really... See, everywhere I go, it's going to be too bright or too dark or too this or too that. I think I'm going to sit inside and do the timeline inside. What do you think? So you can see the workshop.
You can sit with some space on your side so you can put something on the wall.
Can you hold the camera for me? Sorry for that. The rule was no cut, so I cannot cut.
We still are using P-hair clamps to hold the doors. Work in progress.
Work in progress. We need to put the lock. We'll get there eventually. I mean, we're much farther. The last time we talked to you, this was not even close to what it is right now.
Ta-da!
We even have lights. That's awesome. So we are working. This is, by the way, is the workshop. The idea is that we can have the machines on the center. We can have a bench that we can assemble things. We can have wood storage and plywood storage. And also, this door goes directly to the boat. It's locked through the outside, and I'm going to open right now. But work in progress. Yesterday I just assembled, this bench that I worked on a few months ago. I mean, almost a year ago.
We started building here at Bravo.
Yeah.
It's back.
Are we okay? I'm gonna sit actually. Can I sit? Much easier.
Now you need your notebook.
Yeah, so now it's gonna be Duca class 101.
Let's see if we
Yeah, be patient with me. If you really want to understand our relation with the yard and try to learn what not to do when you start a relationship with a boatyard to build a boat in a small yard, be patient and go all the way to the end, because I think that's really interesting. I'm not gonna go through feelings, I'm gonna go through facts. Everything I'm gonna say from now on is based on a timeline of emails. I'm just gonna describe day by day the emails that I send and that the boatyard sent to me, and the dates of the payments and when they start to be late and all that. So
here you go.
So remember, that's all facts. That's no. We really want this video to stay online. We don't want this video to be shut down. So we are gonna just stick to the facts. The interpretation of that, I wish I could say, I don't want to do it because it's gonna create trouble. We might be sued by someone. I just want to stick to the facts because there is nothing anyone can do to us if we just state the facts. So this story starts on the 17th of January of 2023. That was the first contact that I ever had with the boatyard. I saw a post on Facebook of them saying, hey, if you sail one of our boats, if you have any story with one of our boats, we would love to share your story on our website. So I answered them saying, hey, we sail one of your boats that was actually designed by you in the 80s, but was built in Brazil, and we told a little bit of our story, and we would love to be on your website. So they answered, and they were happy to put us on their website. This was 17th of January. On the 4th of February of 2023, we are sailing in between islands in Martinique, and we receive a WhatsApp audio message. My boss brought some batteries in case it dies, because it's going to be a long one. So on the 4th of February, we receive an audio message while we are sailing in between islands in Martinique. And the audio message says, I'm a friend of your friend, and I'm looking for a boat to circumnavigate. I want a boat ready to go. I want a boat made out of steel because I want a really strong boat, and blah, 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 blah. And that gave us a spark. Like, this boat that the guy is talking about is actually our boat. So we somehow change the conversation, and that leads to us selling our boat. Because at this point, we were already talking to the yard, and we knew, oh, they have a 43 foot that looks pretty cool, that I think we could potentially build something similar to that. So we sold our boat on the 4th. We didn't sell on the 4th, but of course the camera overheated. I've been talking for too long, but let's try to make this. So on the 4th of February, we got a message on WhatsApp saying that the guy is looking for a boat, and we thought about selling our boat. So on the 7th of February, only 3 days after that, we wrote an email to the owner of the boatyard making a proposal about building a boat with them and about recording the process of building the boat with them for our YouTube channel in exchange for a small discount. He wrote back with 3 options. He says, you can either build one of our designs that we already have, and that will cost you 0 on design. You're just going to pay for the building of the boat, and we can work a small discount. Or you can design a brand new 43 foot that's going to cost you around 70,000 euros to do that. Or you can get the standard design and do some modifications, and then you pay for the modifications that you have done. So after a few meetings, on the 7th of March of 2023, we signed a contract for the design that was the standard design with some modifications, and the list of modifications added up to 16,000 euros with taxes included. And that means they said in order for them to start actually designing things, we needed to pay 70% of the contract. So we pay 9,000 and something euros. That is 70% of the contract on the 7th of March of 2023 for them to start working on the design. In April 2023, that means the next month, like 1 month later, after we signed the contract, we left the boat in Martinique and we flew to France to visit the boatyard for the first time, to see how they work, to have designing meetings, and also to record a commercial for the yard that we never charged them. We just, as we are clients, as we are partners, as we're gonna work together to build a boat and we're gonna film the process, why not be in the commercial? So we decided, okay, we can film the commercial. I mean, not film, we're not recording, we're just actors on the commercial for the boatyard, on some advertisement for the boatyard. After April, until the 8th of August, so April to August, that is when we moved to Europe to be closer to the yard, because since day one, we said that we're gonna build the boat with you, we're gonna film the process, and we're gonna live in town so we can be in a daily basis on the yard to film the process, and we were allowed to do that. During these months, the design process was really slow. There was not much progress. Everything takes so long. The meetings, since we did the first payment, the speed of the next meeting was much slower. Until we paid the 70%, the meetings were much more frequent. As soon as we paid, we were never the priority. There was something else, always something else that they need to do. They need to finish this boat, finish this design for this boat, or they need to work on that boat, or that, or that, or that. It never happened until September 23, when they changed the designer. The current designer of our boat decided to get a different job in a different company, and they hire another designer. And that made a lot of sense because the designer of our boat was not really working on our boat, and it's probably because he knew he was going to leave the company already. The new designer didn't really like what he saw, so he decided to redesign a lot of the parts of the boat. And according to him, personally on a meeting, he said that he even started from scratch the hull of the boat, because if you compare the two hulls, even the lines of the like under the water line, the lines of the boat are different from one design to the other. And that means, oh, by the way, one disclaimer, when we signed the contract back in 7th of February, no, 7th of March. So in 7th of March, we signed the contract with the promise that the boat would be starting in September the same year. So that means 6 months of design, and then we start building the hull. We moved to Europe in August, so that means we have 1 month to settle things up, to go to Spain to do the IVF, because we wanted to have a baby, and then we come back to France, and in September we start the build. In September, instead of starting the build, we restart the design one more time because they changed designers. So that means we didn't start when we were supposed to and restart designing the boat in September. By December the same year, the design was not ready yet. The design, there was a lot of parts missing. There was no...
Until nowadays, we don't have a bimini design.
Yeah, we paid for a bimini, for example. It's on the contract and they never designed our bimini because they didn't agree on having a bimini, so they never actually designed a bimini. But whatever. So from September to December, they worked on the design of the boat in a really slow pace. Not much progress at all. Every email I send takes a long time to answer. Every meeting I ask takes a long time to happen, even though we are living literally 7 minutes drive from the boatyard. So we are living in town, and we could, the reason why we live in town is like anytime they call us, we can go in 5 minutes, 7 minutes we are in the yard. So by December, nothing much had been done, and there was a lot of things missing still in the design. For example, there was no solution for the cockpit, there was no solution for keels, there was no solution for rudder. The cockpit, for example, they never really found a solution, so I drew by hand in a paper, sent to the designer with measurements, and that's how the cockpit is right now. I designed by hand and they put on the 3D model. Let's see the next date. December, so we're in December 2023. On 21st of December 2023, the owner of the yard sends us an email. At this moment, we are in Spain because we are doing waiting for the procedure of the IVF that brought us Oli, our baby. We are waiting for the date of the transfer of the embryo. And
cork on the van. Applying cork on the van.
We just had applied cork, so that was like 2 weeks after we applied cork on the van in Spain. And he says that he don't want to pressure us, but if we don't make a decision and we sign a contract of the building of the boat until the 31st of December, he could not guarantee that we would start the boat in 2024 because he had a lot of people wanting to build boats, and there is not such space on the boatyard, so he needs to organize the timeline for the year. And he's like, it's no problem if you don't want to sign now, you don't build the boat in 2024, it's up to you. But if you want to build in 2024, you need to sign the contract. I answered to him saying that I cannot sign a contract when I don't have the confidence that all the decisions for the design are done. And when I said that, I said I don't mean you need to have the final detail design to build, but at least I need to be confident that you have the solution. And in a matter of, and also I said, I need to have a quote for, no, before I say that. So I said I could not sign a contract without keel and rudders, without having the solution for everything. So in a matter of 1 week, they managed to do what they didn't do in 6 months. They drew the cockpit, they did a few other designs, and he emailed me on the 25 or 26, I did the payment on the 26th. No, he actually sent the email on the 26th. 26th of December, he said, now we have the solutions. I've been following the emails, the exchange of emails of you and the designers. And we have enough of the boat that we can sign a contract. What we can do is divide the contract in two, because keel and rudders are not ready yet, but we can take keel and rudders out of the contract. We sign a contract for hull, deck and roof, and we start working on that, and then we finish the details of keel and rudders, and we can sign a different contract to buy the material and to finish keel and rudders. So I answer him saying I'm okay on dividing the contract in two, but I need to have a quote for keel and rudders, because I cannot sign a contract and then in 6 months from now you tell me that a keel and a rudder is going to cost me 200,000 euros. It doesn't make sense. I cannot afford to do that, so I need at least an estimation of how much the keel and rudders are going to cost. It's a long train. Yeah, so he answered saying that the estimation for keel and rudders was 47,000 euros plus minus 10%. With that I said, okay, I can deal with 47,000 plus minus 10%. And on the 26th of December, we signed the contract, and I paid 30% of the contract for them to buy the aluminum that would arrive in the beginning of February, and we would start the building, the welding of the boat by middle February. That was the promise. You pay by the end of December, we start the build by middle February. On the 24th of February, on the 24th of February, so we signed the contract on the 26th of December. 2 months later, on the 24th of February, I get a message on Facebook from one of our subscribers, one of you guys, interested on buying hull number 2 of our boat. He watched our description of the boat. Even before we actually start welding the boat, he trusted our judgments, and he decided to start a conversation with Meta that led to him actually purchasing a hull number 2 of our boat. Not just the hull, the entire boat, turnkey, with sails, with hybrid engine, with everything. 24th of February. 28th of February, the aluminum that was supposed to arrive in the beginning of the month and the boat that was supposed to start by the middle of the month, the aluminum hadn't arrived yet, therefore the boat didn't start to be built. But by contract, we should pay another 10.5%. Remember, at this point, we had paid 30%. And if we pay another 10.5%, that means we would get up to 40.5%. And with the promise that the aluminum would arrive in 1 week, we decide to pay and see what happens. So we pay the extra 10.5%, not extra, the next 10.5%. And on the 6th of March, the aluminum plates arrived on the yard. part of the aluminum plates. It arrived the hull and the deck, not the roof. The roof they were gonna buy on the second lot, the second part of the...
Because they didn't finish the design for that.
Because the design was not 100%, so they decided to wait until the next time they buy aluminum.
You're going home, okay?
Bye-bye. So Roberta and Oli are gonna go home because Oli is really sleepy, and we need to finish this because we started, we're gonna finish together. One shot, if the camera overheat again, we start over again. So 6th of March, the aluminum arrived. The 31st of March, we were supposed to pay the next 10.5%, and that means we would get to 51%. But at this moment, they didn't start welding our boat yet. Remember, the boat was supposed to be started on February, mid-February. We're talking 31st of March and the boat didn't start. So I told them, no, I'm sorry, we need to stop paying because I'm not gonna get to 51%, and all I have is half of the plates sitting on the ground. As soon as you start welding the boat, we go back to pay. On the 9th of April, they start welding the first plates, and that means they start joining together the long plates that form the bottom of the boat. That was the 9th of April. On the 11th of April, 2 days later, I did the payment of the next 10.5%. That means we got to 51%, and the day after, they stopped building the boat for the next 2 months. The excuse was always, we don't have enough welders. We don't have enough welders. So if you don't have enough welders, why did you even start the boat? I'm not gonna start judging. I'm just gonna give facts. That's the fact. They started on the 9th of April. On the 11th of April, I did the payment. They stopped building the boat for the next 2 months. After a lot of pressure on our side, on the 10th of June, remember the boat was supposed to start in middle of February, this 10th of June, and the boat was supposed to be finished by September. That was the promise. The boat starts in February, finishes in September. That's 10th of June, and they restart the building. I mean, in a way, they just started because they worked for 3 days, so they just started in June. And that's when we had the incident of the welder that didn't want to be filmed. That we shot a video about that in the past. You probably watch it, I guess. How do I explain that? I'm gonna be really short because we have a video about that already. We had a deal with the yard that we are gonna build a boat with you, and we're gonna film the entire process. If we don't film the process, we don't make money. If we don't make money, we cannot pay for the boat. So that's our job. And they accepted that we had a deal with that. It's fine. It's no problem at all. And on the first day of work, one guy aligns the bottom plate in like some stance and aligns the side plate, and they need to start welding them together. And I stand up next to that with my camera for literally 3 days, and no one would start the weld until I found out that the main welder, that is the boss of the shop, like the manager of the boatyard, of the shop of the boatyard, he was pretty much he was on a strike. He said he was not gonna weld until I'm not there. He didn't want me to film and not to be there, and I said, that's my job. I'm just doing my job. I'm not here to control anyone, to say what to do, what not to do. I'm not gonna judge the welds. I'm just gonna film. And he said, nope. So then I said, I will put a black, I don't know, like something black covering the person welding. I'm just gonna show the boat. Nope. So we needed to make a decision. We either have a job or we have a boat, and we decided to have a boat. So for the next month, we didn't film anything. We would just visit the yard after hours when the welders are not there anymore to check the progress, but we stopped filming for a month. After this month, slowly I start going more to the yard and things settle down, so I start filming, and it seemed at first that we were starting to get some progress, but didn't take long for us to realize that the welders never stick to the yard, and that's a big problem because it would show up someone to work on our boat. 2 days later, he is already working on the neighbor boat, and 3 days later, he's on the other boat, And there is never someone responsible for our boat. No one knows how to answer questions. No one knows what's going to be done tomorrow. I cannot plan what I'm going to film because I have no idea what's going to happen. And many of the times we would have just one welder while other boats have like 5 welders. So our boat was really slow. And that means the payment, as at this moment we had paid already 51%, we were holding on the payment until we have enough progress to feel like we should pay and do another payment. So on the 20th of September, remember, 20th of September is when the boat should be delivered. We are not even close to done. And they email us a invoice for another 10.5%. So if you didn't understand by now, the contract was 30% in the beginning to buy the material, 10.5% monthly, and the last payment when the boat's ready is like 7 and something percent. That's like the last payment. So we paid 10.5% because they've been working slowly, but they're working on the boat for a few months. So that's already September. We did another payment, and that brought us to 61.5% of the boat paid. By the way, every time they send an invoice, it was random days, not according to the timeline of invoice, because at this moment the timeline didn't exist anymore because they're late on everything, so the timeline doesn't make sense. And I would just, out of nowhere, they would never like say like, hey, this week we're gonna have an invoice. It's just, we just receive an email with an invoice saying to pay us right now, like immediately. And that's really complicated when you're from Brazil, when your money is in Brazil and you have the money exchange. And when you need to know the right day to convert money into euros, just so you understand, 2 years ago, 1 euro would cost 5.3 of our money. Right now it's 6.5. So we lose a lot of money over time because of inflation in our country and because of the money exchange. So we paid this 10.5%, going up to 61.5% on the 20th of September. On the 31st of September, we get another invoice that would bring us up to 72% on the 31st of October. And I replied to them saying, hey, in the past month you didn't work much at all on our boat. I've been asking for more welders on our boat for months and months and months. We have 1 welder, sometimes 2, and there is no progress. Every week the owner promised me that he is gonna have 4 or 5 welders on my boat starting Monday, full-time, only focused on our boat, and that never happened. So no, we didn't pay the next 10.5%. At this moment, remember that we had already the deal to move to Belgium because we are gonna finish the boat in Belgium. And just to put in perspective, the last discussion that we were not going to pay was October, and that's when our baby was 1.5 months old. That means through all this stress time is when Ollie was born, literally. The day before we go to the hospital was stressful. The day after we came out of the hospital was stressful. The whole time when he was just a tiny little newborn was really complicated to us because I need to deal with this lack of welders on our boat. I need to deal with someone pressuring you to pay something that you should not pay, but if you don't pay, they stop working on your boat. But if you pay, it doesn't mean that they're going to actually work on your boat. So on the 8th of November, we decided that no matter what, we are moving to Belgium because we keep postponing the date of moving to Belgium, and eventually we're going to lose the deal of living in Belgium because we have a house here, we have the place for the workshop. We didn't want to lose that. So we thought, let's move to Belgium. And the month before November, I was trying to get a date from the yard to guarantee that that date is when the boat's going to be ready. And the date started as November. It came up to December. And by the time we left on the 8th of November, the date was 6th of January. That was the deal. They said 6th of January, the boat's ready. And with that, I actually hired the transport because they need 2 months to organize the paperwork to bring the boat from one country to another. And I paid 50% of the transport. That means we paid 5,000 euros in advance to transport the boat on the 6th of January. 12th of November. So we left France we moved from France to Belgium on the 8th of November. 4 days later, on 12th of November, I received another email with another invoice and with a few pictures to prove the progress. Let me just check one fact. Okay, so there was a few pictures, and these pictures you cannot tell, but so this picture is the stringers of the roof and a few plates on the cockpit. That's all. And I'm like, okay, they did something, but there's two questions. There is one question that I need to ask. There was a big problem on the angle of the deck of the boat, the forward deck. There was a problem on the angle of the plate, and there was a problem on the angle of the roof of the deck salon. And I said, did you fix those problems? If you fix those problems, I can make the payment, otherwise I'm not going to make the payment. And he answered, the owner of the yard answered that both problems were fixed. And I can say that because that's a fact. It was not fixed because the boat is next to me right now on the other side of this wall, and the problem still exists. So he confirmed in the email that those problems were fixed. And if you hire a boatyard to build a boat with a deck on a certain angle, it needs to be on that angle. It cannot be 20 millimeters difference height on the deck. So, trusting them on the information that they actually fix things, on the 13th of November, I did the payment and we reached 72% of the contract paid. He emailed me right away. And by the way, when I asked about the two problems, I also asked about the timeline. I said, are these two problems fixed? And also, do you confirm that on the 6th of January the boat's going to be ready? Because we are just 1.5 months away from the 6th of January. And I can tell by the pictures that we're not going to be ready. And I'm like, do you confirm that we're going to be ready? He didn't answer that on the email, but I'm far away. I know if I stop paying, they're probably not going to work on my boat. They're going to work on someone else's boat. So I'm like, we paid on the 13th of November. And he right away emails me back saying, thank you for paying. And then he answers the question about the timeline saying, it's possible, but it's unlikely. It's going to be really tricky to get the boat ready by 6th of January. And I respond to him that I think it's really unfair for him to wait until I pay to answer those kind of questions, because I actually paid 50% of the transport. That's really expensive. It was 5,000 euros, just the 50%. And I have a responsibility because I told the transport company that the boat is going to be ready on the 6th of January. He didn't answer after that, of course. On the 16th of December, after months of asking about the second contract, the third contract. So since they started building our boat, they worked on the design of the keel and rudders. It didn't take long for them to actually have the design of keel and rudders because they needed to buy the plates together with the roof. And months before December, they already had the full design of the keel and rudders. And I've been asking, where is the contract? I need the final contract of the keel and rudders because I need to know how much I need to pay for that. And I need to know if I have the money. And on the 16th of December, after months of asking about the contract, they randomly sent an invoice out of nowhere saying, you need to pay 50%, is how they say, right away. So like, they said on the 16th of December, you need to pay on that day 50% of the second or of the third contract, so we can buy the material to or whatever. And when I opened the contract, it's not even a contract, the quote. Remember that the price estimated by them was 47,000 euros plus minus 10%, and I opened an invoice for 70,000 euros. You do the math, and that's a lot more than plus 10%. And I'm like, what? So I checked the invoice and the price of keel and rudders are much more expensive than they used to be, even though the original quote was for a turbo keel system, that is a system that they designed to transfer ballast from one keel to the other, that you need a lot of hoses, you need a lot of valves that are expensive, big valves with electronics, you need a hydraulic pump that goes both ways, so there's a lot of components, and also you need to have ballast on little balls, like shot ballast, like shot balls, like tiny little balls of ballast that are more expensive than just bars of lead. And that means this is already like, you would save at least, I would say like 10 to 15,000 euros by changing to normal fixed keels. And I'm like, I don't understand how is that more expensive. And then it had a few items extra on our cost. You go back in time, when we signed the contract for hull, deck and roof, he acknowledged on the emails that this price is for everything on the boat except keel and rudders. Everything except keel and rudders. And that the keel and rudders is going to cost 47,000 euros plus minus 10%. He was charging us. So when we bought the material for the boat, we didn't know if we were going to have glue glazing on the deck saloon, if we were going to have the glazing glued on the deck saloon, or if we were going to have framed glaze, that means a frame holding the glaze to the aluminum. The difference in between these two solutions is that if you go with glue glazing, that means you need to weld a frame around the hull. And of course, welding a frame, there is a little bit more work on that and a little bit more material on that. But if you force me to sign a contract, not force, but if you induce me to sign a contract when the design is not 100% ready, you are taking the risk of these changes, because you never told me that if I choose this solution, it's going to be more, I need to pay more than the previous contract. You just tell me you choose between this and this, and you don't tell me anything about extra money, and suddenly you come up with an invoice of 7,000 euros for a few frames on the deck saloon. I say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay 7,000 euros for a few frames that don't cost 7,000 euros, and that you spend without letting me know that I would need to pay for that. So if you want to take that out of the boat, feel free, but I'm not paying 7,000 euros for that. So the next 2 weeks or so was probably the most stressful ones, because I don't know, it's just I cannot even explain. I don't want to explain that, because I'm gonna go into feelings, and I don't, that's not the purpose of this video. We want to be strict to facts, because otherwise we might be sued by someone. Wait, I know I said no edit on this video, but we need an exception. I forgot to mention something on this part of the video, that is, we do understand if you want to charge for little details that are changed on the design during the process of building the boat, but if you want to do that, this needs to go both ways. Things that are more expensive we need to pay, but if we change the solution for something much cheaper, we also need a bigger discount. We need to take that part out. For example, the original design of the boat, when we quote the boat, was for twin rudders. We decide later to go with one rudder. That means one shaft, one rudder, one tunnel instead of two tunnels. And that means a lot cheaper, a lot less time to build, and a lot less material to build. And we never got anything back from that. Also, this boat was supposed to have two engines, and that means two engine mounts, two tunnels, and everything twice, and we never got any money back from there. So that means if you're not giving back from what we made cheaper, we also don't want to pay little things that it became a little bit more expensive. If you want to charge for that, it's fine, but then we want our money back for what we didn't build. So it always need to go both ways. That's our opinion. But now back to the video. So after a lot of negotiation, on the 26th of December, we got to an agreement of a price. So the price went down from 70,000 euros with tax included to 42,000 euros with tax included. I still believe that is more than it should be, but it was more reasonable. So we accepted 42,000 euros, but we hadn't signed the contract yet. On the 26th of December, we received the next invoice of that would take us to 83% of the contract, plus a second invoice of 50% of the contract for keel and rudders. That means 21,500 euros. Straight away, I email the person that emails, is someone from the yard that sent the invoices. I email them saying, hey, I'm sorry, but there is no progress. There is no proof of progress. You didn't send any pictures. I don't see any change on the boat. And also, I don't have a confirmation of a date. I've been asking for days and days by email to the owner of the yard, when is the delivered date of the boat so I can schedule the transport. And we are already on the 26th of December. There is Christmas, New Year's. I need to organize the transport. And if I don't have a proof of progress and a specific date for the boat to leave, I'm not going to pay. Otherwise, really soon I'm going to pay 100% of the boat, and the boat's really far from 100% done. And this being said, of course, I also didn't pay the 50% of the contract that we haven't signed yet. That's 26th of December. New Year's goes by. On the 9th of January, I received an email from the owner of the yard with a few pictures showing progress on the boat. He say, I'm not sure if we are 80% done, 82 or 84, but we are definitely over 80% done, because if I do the payment, we would get to 83%. By the way, one of the pictures that he sent, there was even artificial blur on the picture to hide the welds of the cockpit, because the cockpit was just tack welded in place. There was was not fully welded, and there was one picture of a really close-up detail of the cockpit fully finished. But in reality, the only part of the cockpit that's fully finished is that little corner. So, of course, I didn't pay, and I said, I'm sorry, but you didn't progress fast enough. You didn't give me a date of finishing the boat, and I sent him a list of 30 items that were not done on the boat, so the 30 missing items on the boat, and I said, there is no way you're going to finish this by the 6th of January, and there is this long 30 items list, and if you think you can finish the boat in a month or so, or in a reasonable time, you give me another contract saying the specific date that you're going to finish the boat. And also, I want fine for every week that you're late. So if you give me a new contract with the delivery date clear and a weekly fine for every week that you're late, I'm happy to pay as soon as you send me the contract. So that was the 9th of January this year, 2025. 1 week later, on the 16th of January, he responded my email saying that the date of delivery of the boat, they had a meeting, and the date is middle April. So this middle April, that means 3 months. So that means 3 months. If the boat total time of building the boat was 7 months, 3 months represents 40%. So that means, in other words, they were 60% done with the boat. I don't care if you finish the big welds. What I care is how long does it take to build. It doesn't make any difference to me. And he said that the timeline would be middle April to deliver the boat. And he ended up, and he finished the email saying that you might think that I'm bluffing, but if we don't raise 100,000 euros by the end of the month, that means 2 weeks from the date of the email, we might need to start a process on the commerce chamber, I don't know how you call that, like on the commerce sector of the city, saying that we have no money. And this procedure, in the worst case scenario, the dissolvency of the company is not, ruled out. I'm not saying we're gonna go out of business, but that's not out of question in the long term if we don't raise 100,000 euros by the end of the month. And I ask for your collaboration, as the other clients are doing, and I ask you to pay your next invoice to help us out to survive. after that, just like now, I literally froze. That was the 16th of January. I couldn't answer for a day or 24 hours. And on the 17th, one day later, after a lot of thinking, I answered him really politely saying, I'm sorry you are in that position. It's really sad to know that a boatyard with so many years of history is in this position. But the only way we can help you is by paying for what is built and taking the boat out of the yard. Because if we do that, that means you don't have to finish our boat, and you can relocate the welders working on our boat, the 1 or 2 welders on our boat, to work on the next boat, and therefore you can finish the next boat faster and you can make money from the next boat, and in this way we can help you to survive. That's the only way we can help you. And he answers right away saying that's a possibility. So that was Friday, I think 7 p.m. And I said, Monday I'm back in France so we can have a meeting about that. So that was the 17th. On the 18th, on Saturday, we already drove, me, Roberta and Ollie. We contacted the family that we used to rent their house. We moved back to France for 2 weeks to solve the problem. On the 20th of January, I had the first meeting with the yard, with the owner of the yard, to try to come up with a solution of taking the boat out of the yard. And for my surprise, because he agrees that we pay for what's built and you can take the boat out, but I was 100% sure that we overpaid already, that we paid more than we should. So that means you just take the boat out, you do it legally, you do a contract, you have everything, the paperwork, and you do it properly, but you don't need to pay anything else. And it ends up that he wanted another 25,000 euros plus taxes. That means 30,000 euros for us to take the boat out. And if we pay that, we would go up to 85.5% paid of the boat. And we are really far from 85.5% built, as you've seen probably in the last video. And I said, no, I think that's too much. It doesn't make any sense. And after a lot of negotiation, we get down to 20 plus taxes. That means 24,000 euros. And he says that's the last offer. You either pay 24,000 euros or you are not allowed to take the boat out of the yard, and we are going to stop building your boat. Boat's going to sit here. And he said, I'm not saying that we are going to go out of business, but eventually if that happens, even though you own the boat by contract, because your contract says that you own the boat up to what you paid at any moment, it's going to be really complicated for you to take the boat out of the yard. And at this moment, I thought to myself, I don't know if he's bluffing. I don't know if he's that bad on money, but I don't want to risk. I want to save what we own. Like, that's the most valuable thing that we own, and I just want to... Yeah. Those two weeks were probably the 2 hardest weeks of my life. We had a lot of meetings. Eventually I told Roberta that I believe we're going to lose the boat because this guy is not going to let us out. He's not going to let us get the boat that we own. And eventually, after a lot of talk with my dad, that is a businessman for, 40 years, and a lot of advice from a lot of people, I decided to pay. We decided we have no options, so we pay. We know we are overpaying, but as soon as we get to Belgium, we do a survey and we prove technically with a professional surveyor that we are overpaying, and we can either sue them or we can ask for the money back. So we did pay what he asked for, and that went up to 82.82%. So that means we paid 82. The camera, of course, overheated again. So long story short, yes, we paid what they asked for, and we end up paying 82.82% of the contract. And as I mentioned before on the Q&A, we overpaid on 23.82%, and that's proven by a survey, a professional surveyor, and that is what we asked as credit on the bankruptcy process. We don't want to judge anyone. Again, just to make it clear, this video is not judging anyone, that's just stating facts of what happened to us on our own story. And I'm not saying I'm not talking about any other client, I'm talking about our own story. There are more that we know, yes there are, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to share our own story so you can understand the reason why we took the boat out. I believe until now you already know, I mean, like, I went through every single day, and I believe it's really simple to understand why we took the boat out, because they were really late, and I don't believe they would ever finish our boat. Even if they didn't go bankrupt, they would never finish our boat. They were gonna just postpone, and eventually we're gonna need to pay more than we should for the boat. So that's the reason why we took the boat out, because the YouTube channel was dying. This is our main income, that's our job. We have a 10 months old baby, and we need to go back to work. We need to have a job that actually makes some money, otherwise really soon we're gonna just lose the boat and go back to Brazil and find a normal job. Not that what we do is not a normal job, but it's our dream to build this boat and to travel and to create content. And that's the reason why we decide to pretty much take the boat out of the yard. As I said, this is the last time we're going to talk about this in this channel. We don't want to keep pushing this button. We just wanted to make it clear for everyone, just to make sure that everyone understands the motivations and everyone stop asking those questions, because we don't want to be those guys pointing fingers. We don't want to be those guys complaining about life all the time, because if this is bad, go do something else. As you watch us for years, you know that we are usually 100% positive. Even in bad times, we always find a way of thinking positively and trying to find a way of solving the problems and moving on. And that's what we want to do. We just want to move on. We just want to enjoy life. We literally want to get this workshop and make it beautiful, to have shelves, to have our tools, to have something going on, to build beautiful things, and to be excited about building the boat. It's really sad when we when we arrived with the boat here, that for months I would work on this workshop and build this workshop, and I would not even look at the boat, because literally I didn't like the boat anymore. It brought me so much bad memory that I didn't even want to go on the boat. I didn't even walk on the deck for months. It's just, I didn't want to see that. That's the truth. It's really hard when you see your dream in a way that's not, I don't know, it just stopped being your dream. And I want to get over with that. And for the past month, we've been slowly going back and getting closer to the boat and going together inside the boat and getting to start working on the designs. And I bought now the lessons for the Rhino software so I can start working on the design of the interior. I've been working with the new designers on the Q system, the rudder system. So it's starting to get back to what we are, to feeling ourselves. We were not feeling ourselves for the last months, and it's really sad. I don't really like that feeling. So now let's go to the next step. Step number 3 of this video, Q&A. Yeah, step number 3, that is our mistakes. We really hope that by watching this video, you can avoid these big mistakes in the future if you decide to commission a boat in a small boat yard. So for me, the first big mistake we did, and that, to be honest, I cannot say that I didn't hear that it was a mistake. We have friends that told us that is a mistake, don't do it. But we went with our guts and we decided to take the chance. Don't ever start a project or sign a big contract without having everything aligned, without having 100% the solution. We signed the contract of building the whole of the boat and the design was not ready. Don't do that. If the design is not ready after months of work, making a payment is not going to solve the problem. Making a payment is not going to make the design show up the next day. It's not. If they cannot manage to deliver the design, you should not move forward. But of course, it's really hard when you already spend like 10,000 euros on a design, and that you're thinking, if I give up, I'm going to lose 10,000 euros and I need to start over again and I need to find another yard and it's complicated this, it's complicated that, and then you're like, no, let's trust them, let's do it. Don't do that. It's better to lose 10,000 euros than losing 200,000 euros. That's a tough one. The second one is, when you do it, make sure to have a proper contract. Did we have a contract? Yes, we did have a contract. But as we are working together towards designing a boat that we could potentially sell to other people that watch our videos and potentially get commission for these boats that we sell, the boatyard says, I don't want to have a clause on the contract that says we have a fine for delays, because in the end of the day, this is hole number one, and of course we can have a little delay here and there, and we don't accept paying a fine for that. And the truth is, we should not have signed the contract without fines. Because if you don't have a fine, and if you don't have a strict timeline, that's the second thing, we didn't have a strict timeline and a strict milestone. What we should have done is, we have a milestone. If you finish the frames, you get 30% for the material. If you finish the frames, you get 10%. If you finish the entire hull, you get another 10%. If you finish the roof, you get another 10%. So you have something related to the payment. I suggest that to the yard, and they didn't accept. Again, saying that we work together, we have the same interest, we both want the boat to be done as soon as possible. We are not accepting that. And that was a red flag. We should not have accepted also. If they don't want to pay a fine, and if they don't want to have a specific date for the delivery, we should not have signed the contract at first place. We should not have done that, and that's our own mistake. Please don't do that. If you run into this problem, stand up for your rights and say, no, if you don't have a fine, I don't want to work with you. If you don't trust that you're going to deliver in time, or you can give like maybe a month of delay, that is fine, but you need to have something that dictates what happens in case things go south. We didn't have that. Or for example, we had a partnership to sell other boats. We sold a boat even before we started our boat, and we were promised commission for that, but we didn't have a contract for that. And that complicated things a lot. So get the contract right. The last stage of this video is to talk about the future of the channel. We got a lot of comments this week specifically saying that this channel is dead, never coming back, we're never gonna make videos again. That's far from true. The truth is, we're back. I'm not promising that we're gonna have a video every single week as we used to have, because first of all, we have a big challenge ahead, and second of all, because we have a little baby. But we are gonna try to have bi-weekly, that's how you call it, I think, every other week a video. That means the week you watch this video today, in 2 weeks we plan to have our next video, and then after 2 weeks the next video, and then 2 weeks the next video. And we hope not to break this 2-week cycle. I cannot guarantee, that's life. If it doesn't happen, we're gonna let you know. But we're gonna try to have a video every other week. Also, I didn't talk about how to finish the boat. So after a lot of thinking, we had a few options to finish the boat. We sell the boat as it is, we take the boat to another yard to finish the boat, or we hire a welder and finish the boat here. We try to sell the boat. We try to take the boat to another yard. We cannot afford to work with another yard. Maybe we might build parts of the boat in a different yard and then bring them to install here, but we cannot afford to bring the boat entirely to another yard. It involves expensive transport, it involves an expense cost of building the yard. So we decide to buy a welding machine. By the way, we already bought the welding machine. We already have the welding machine for the job. And we are going to hire one of the welders from Roblin, the factory where we live. There is a welder that is specialized in aluminum, and he is going to work on his free time to help us to build the boat. But he is going to only be the welder of the boat, and that means I'm going to be the fabricator. I'm going to be the one cutting the pipes, getting the plates ready, tack welding the plates, creating holes for the shaft, creating holes for the rudder, aligning parts, and he's only gonna come to do the final weld. So that means the responsibility is gonna rely on me a lot, and that's really, really scary. But I strongly believe that if we put enough effort and enough work on that, we can build a really great boat, and that's what we're gonna try to do. We're gonna, I don't know, if you're curious to see if we can make it, just follow along, subscribe to the channel, and watch me probably fail a few times and work my way around and finding solutions like I always did in the past, and hopefully eventually we're gonna have a beautiful boat, and that's the dream. So we're gonna build the boat here. That's why, let me try, I'm tired of seeing here. Let me try to show you what's happening. Oh. So I'm still working on the workshop. So the idea that here is gonna be a wood workshop that we can build cabinets for the boat and that we can build cabinets for the van. And next to this workshop is where the boat is sitting, right there. So the idea is that now we need to cover here because the boat is sticking out of the shed, and here you can feel already the breeze. Any wind, if you want to MIG weld or TIG weld, is terrible for the welds. It's really hard to weld. You get a lot of bad welds, bad quality welds. It's just a nightmare to work. So we need to cover that for the wind and for the rain. That's why I have this beam here that I did a test yesterday to create a really long 5.5 meters beam to be able to cover these 2 meters of the boat. And that's the next step. I'm hoping that we're gonna assemble this roof. I already have the structure that is in another shed made out of metal that we are working on. That's something that was laying on the factory. And hopefully on Tuesday, I'm gonna work on that. And that's one video that I'm gonna record. And then we're gonna start working on the boat in 1 month from the day you're watching this video. And the reason for that is because the factory, Robin, is on vacations starting this week. Say hello. So that's one thing you need to get used to it. There is a train next to us. You're always going to see the train. So we are not starting next week the boat because Robin is on vacation, summer vacation for 4 weeks. And that means the welder is not going to be here. He's going to be traveling. And when he comes back from vacation, that's when we are going to start working on the boat. During this month, I'm going to work on the workshop, getting things ready. And I'm going to work on the roof because I need to cover. I'm going to build the structure this Tuesday, but then I need to cover around. And when he's back, we're going to start working on the boat. So you ask now, what are we going to watch on the next weeks if you're not going to work on the boat yet? So the next video is going to be about the KM Yacht Builders Open Shop Day 2025. You've seen probably the video from last year. So KM Yachts, a boatyard in the Netherlands, they have every year a open shop day. That's pretty much a boatyard, a boat show with their own boats. And there are a lot of nice, amazing aluminum boats, exploration boats. And we did tour of 2 amazing boats, and we want to show that to you. It's already edited. That's the video in 2 weeks from now. After that, we have one more video about boat tours, but that's another boat from another yard in the Netherlands, the same yard that built Distant Shores 4. We are friends with the owner of the yard. We went visit the boat that he's building currently. That is a 50-foot deck saloon made out of aluminum. That the reason why we wanted to visit this boat is because the layout of the deck saloon is really similar to the original layout of our boat, and Roberta wanted to see in person, and I was also curious, so we went to visit this boat. By the way, just a disclaimer, the boat's not ready, it's under construction, and I think that's even cooler because we have a conversation with the owner of the yard about everything that goes behind the scenes, behind the walls, the systems, and I think it's a really cool conversation. After that, the next video, I think it's about the building of the workshop. And before you complain, no, we're not going to have like 5-6 different videos about the workshop. It's going to be one long video from zero, when this was empty, to a full workshop. Not as it is now, with the machines, with everything inside, with the tools, that we already edited up to, I don't know, 80% the episode. We are waiting to transfer the machines to the workshop this week, and then we can finish this episode. So that's number 3. So boat tour, workshop. And the next one is already about the boat. That is about how we move the boat from here inside the shed, not just straight. We need to turn the boat around without a crane. So we did a whole maneuver with 4 people, and we put the boat inside, and that was a really cool maneuver. I think it's a really cool video. I didn't edit it yet, but I think it's going to be a really cool video. After that one is going to be the video about building the extension of the shed, and hopefully a video about lifting the boat 80 centimeters from the ground, because we need to have space to install the keel in the future, and we don't want to start welding the boat before the boat is on level, because this floor is not on level, because there is a drain on the other side, and because of the drain there is an angle, and with the angle the boat's not sitting straight, and it's going to be much more complicated. There is a drain right there, so it's going to be much more complicated to finish the boat out of, I don't know, level. So we want to level the boat, and as we will need to raise the boat in the future anyways to build the keel, we decide that we want to do that first. We raise the boat. It's going to be maybe almost a meter higher, and then we level the boat, and with this done we can properly start working on the boat itself. And the first step is to work on the cockpit and finish the welds of the cockpit, and then we move on. I have no idea, then the time will tell, and we'll see. It's going to be a really tricky project, but I strongly believe it's going to be a really cool project, and I'm really looking forward to start learning about aluminum welding. I'm going to learn a lot about fabrication. I'm going to be responsible for a lot of things. I'm 100% out of my comfort zone, but it is what it is. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do if you want your dream to come true, and that's what we're going to do. And sorry for this such long video, but I really want to move on, and I don't want to talk about these things. I don't want to be sad anymore, to be honest. I just cannot take it. It's just too much. I want to move on, and I want to be happy again. I want to enjoy life. I want the dream to be true. I mean, like, we are leaving 50 seconds walk that way. We have our dream boat here and our dream workshop here. Why should we be sad? We just want to enjoy life and build things and enjoy the process. All the aluminum there. By the way, the rest of the aluminum now, I found a shelf. So on the other shed, I have all organized on a shelf. I don't know if you can see on the back. So I have all the aluminum organized. We have some more aluminum that we need to buy. So from now on, as we say in Brazil, we draw a line. What's behind the line is behind the line, we don't talk about. And I hope you understand. I hope you stick with us, because it's going to be really awesome to see a lot of trains passing by all the time. And I don't know, I'm just excited to start. I just cannot wait to actually make progress. But still, we need to be a little bit patient, because there's 2-3 tasks that we need to do before we start welding. And that's it. I think if you didn't understand what happened on the last months by now, I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know how to explain better than that. I think I went through every single little detail that I can, and I mean, probably it's even a video that we should not have filmed, because of course there's always the chance of someone wanting to sue you, and that's the main reason why I didn't say names and brands and anything. And the reason why I stick to facts, because I strongly believe once you just tell facts, what's written on emails, on exchange, and you're not interpreting anything, you're not judging anyone, you're just sharing your story, and there's nothing wrong on that, I think. So that's it. I wish Roberta and Ollie were here to say goodbye, but you know, this video was too long and Ollie was really sleepy, and a little baby needs sleep after lunch, and we just had lunch, so he feels much better and is much more happier when he sleeps after lunch. So let's talk. I see you in 2 weeks. We're back. Finally, we're back.